Welcome to our YouTube channel, My Project Ideas. And today we're going to build this awesome looking weather application which will show the weather according to the type location, and which will show the wind speed, humidity, heat index, and whatever it is. And not only the weather of the current situation, but also the forecast of upcoming 6 days, like this. And suppose if I want to check the weather of a particular location like New Delhi, and I hit enter, then it will show the weather conditions of New Delhi. And as you can see, according to that, the background image is also changed. And okay, isn't it wonderful? And just like I have to type another string like where there is sunny, like Bhopal. Okay, let's search for Bhopal. So the weather of the Bhopal is clear, as you can see here. Isn't it awesome? Now let's look at the requirements. What do we have to build? So we will be using the React.Js together with the Tailwind CSS, as we do in all our projects. So let's jump into the code. So here I just created a new folder called weather application, and I'm just gonna open this folder in VS Code, by far the most popular code editor ever. So I will just type code space dot, and this will open this folder into the VS Code. And here we go. Let's bring the terminal in front. Okay. So terminal is taking a little time. Yeah. So for creating the React app, I will be using the Vite instead of create React app, which is old for now, but it is as good as before. But we will be using Vite for this particular project. So for that, I will be typing npm create Vite@latest, so that the latest version of the Vite should install, and I will hit enter, and it will give us some prompts which we have to choose, and we will choose the name to be // because I don't want to create another folder, and package name to be weather application, yes, and I will be using React with JavaScript. Okay, so as you can see, the boilerplate code is ready. And for the second step, we will just install all the dependencies inside our application. So just npm install, and let's wait for them to install. Okay, so our dependencies are installed completely. So now we should test our application by running the command npm run dev, and this should run the application. And okay, so it is saying that this application is running on this localhost 5173. So let's open it. Okay, so the app is running successfully. As you can see, I can increase the counter here. And now the second thing I will be setting in this application is Tailwind CSS, so that our development of UI get extremely fast. So for that, I will visit the Tailwind CSS, and we will click on this Get Started button, and we will click on this tab Framework Guides. And in the Framework Guides, I will just go into the Vite because we are using Vite. As you can see, the first two steps are not needed because we already have done that. We just have to install those dependencies and these commands. Okay, I will just copy this command and go into the terminal. I will stop the application. Okay, it is stopped already, and I will just paste those commands here, and let's wait for them to install. Okay, so our dependencies got installed, and now let's just run this command. I will copy this command and run it here. So by this command, as you can see, the two files post.css.config.js and tailwind.config.js appeared in our project. So, and the next step would be just editing the tailwind.config.js by this. So I'll be copying this content and paste it in tailwind.config.js. Instead of this empty, I will paste it here like that. And for the next one, we have to place these 3 lines in our index.css. So let's go to our index.css in the src folder, index.css. I will remove all of the boilerplate code here and just paste those. And for the normalization of every other element, I will be typing. This is not related to Tailwind CSS, but it's a good practice to be considered. Before and after, margin to be 0, padding to be 0, and box sizing to be border box. Yes, looks fine. And also in the app.css, I'll be removing all the boilerplate code. Okay, so now follow the next step. So it is saying that you run your app and you can use the Tailwind CSS in your project. Okay, so go into our project. So we should probably run our app now, npm run dev. So it should be running by now. Okay, so let's just check. And here it is, the app is running, but we also forgot to remove those things, so let's just remove them. In the App.jsx, I'll be removing those 2 logos imports up there, and this state is also not needed. And inside the div, I will remove it completely, also this one. And instead of the React frame int only, I will have a div here, and that div, I will give it a class name, and its class name should be text XL, which is extra large, and font bold, which is bold font, and I want it to be text center. Okay, so just type some string here like hello world, and now let's just go. Okay, so our app is working perfectly. So now let's just define our application. Okay, so our code is working perfectly. Now let's just make the weather application. Okay, before jumping into the code, I want to say that I will be using this visual crossing weather API from the Rapid API. I find it API good because there are 500 requests per day, which is the highest among all of its alternatives, and also it is free for the 500 requests per day. If I check the pricing here, so here, so if you are opting for the paid plan, then you can opt for it, but because for only testing purposes, I am using this basic subscription of that. And also one thing that I have provided the assets folder in the description, so you can download the icons and images of this asset folder or the complete asset folder, and you can replace the previous one in your project, so that there will be no hassle in making this project. If you are copying this project, and you can use those things. Okay, so let's create some components. So in the src folder, I will be creating a new folder called components. So what is this? So let's just create a new folder in the src folder called components. And in the components, I will be defining the two components. First, WeatherCard.jsx, and in here we will type the React snippet, RAFCE, and the second component will be MiniCard.jsx, and again here we will type the React snippet, and the third component called background image or background layout, a background layout.jsx, and RAFCE here too. And for a proper structure of our project, I will also be creating index.js. It is nothing but a barrel file, so to ease our imports in another files. So I'll be typing here export default as background layout from /background layout, and similarly I'll be doing this for and similarly I will be doing this for another components like MiniCard and WeatherCard. So let me just, I don't have to click it, so Control D and MiniCard. Also for this, WeatherCard. Okay, seems good. And now let's just make a custom hook for date and time. So in the src folder, I will be creating again a new folder called utils or utilities. In that folder, inside that folder, I will be creating another file called useDate.jsx, and inside of that I will be typing export const useDate, which will be an arrow function, and inside of that arrow function I will be defining a variable, no, a constant, which is en. And the next is I will be defining a useDate hook, which will be today set date. So the useDate is automatically imported, and the useDate initially we will pass the present date. Okay, looking good. And just next to that, I will be defining useEffect. Inside of the useEffect, there's an arrow function followed by dependency array, and the dependency array is empty initially. And inside of the useEffect, we will have a timer, which is further equal to set interval. Inside of set interval, there is an arrow function, and it will hit every 60,000 milliseconds, which is equal to 1 minute. It is updated in 1 minute, every 1 minute. So for that, I will be defining it like this, and the set interval function, I'll be setting date to new date every time. Okay, and so what if our component unmounts? So we'll be handling like this: return function. It will be clear interval, which we have defined called timer. Okay, looks good. And for the next things we want to export from this hook are const day, which is equal to today dot to local date string, and inside of that we will be passing local and an object which will have the field weekday, which will be type of long. Okay, looks nice. And just after that we will be passing date, which is nothing but a template string literal. And inside of that we will be defining another thing, which is day and comma another string with a variable called today dot get date. Okay, and another thing called today dot to local date string, and inside of that we'll be passing local and with the object, and inside of that object I will pass the month to be of long type. And just after that I will type \n/n. Okay, and the next thing is time. So let's just create the time constant, which will be today dot to local date string, which will take local inside it, and for hours inside the object, not hour but hours. Okay, R, and that will be of type numeric, and another field called about 12, and it will be true of course, because we want to the time to be appear in 12-hour format. And we also want to show the minutes, so the minute will be also numeric. Okay, we are done for here, so let's just export them. So we've written those variables called date and time. Okay, so our useDate hook is ready. Okay, so now it's time to define our application layout. So let's just close all those unnecessary things, and we will go to the App.jsx, and inside of the App.jsx we will be creating a single div, and instead of these class names I will typing width to full, height of screen, text to be white, and padding and extraction to be 8. And inside of the div I have the nav tag or the navbar, and for the navbar we will have the class, and the class will be width of full, padding of 3, it will be flex container, justified between, and items to be centered, so that everything will be in the center of the nav. Okay, just after that we will make it the heading. So for the heading we'll be giving it a weather app. Yeah, this is good for now. And for the class name we'll be giving it the font bold, and tracking to be white, and text to be 3 times larger. Okay, and just after that we will be defining another div, and for that particular div we will have a class name of background to be white. Basically this is a input box and which width will be 15 rem and overflow will be hidden, and its shadow will be 2 pixel. It will be rounded, I mean the border radius, and will be a flex container. Items will be in the center, and it will have the padding of 2 inside it and gap of 2 also. Okay, so we have built that, and for the icon we will have an image tag here. And for the image tag, let's leave it empty for now, and for alternative we will call it search. And just below the image tag we will have to define our input tag, and as it is already mentioned that it is text, and for the styling I'll be giving it a class name of when focus, then outline will be none, so that extra outline is not generated. Width to be full, text will be of the color hashtag 212121. This is a hashing of gray color, I think, and text will be large. Okay, so there are some additional things that we will be defining for the input, because our input is a controlled component. So for that we will be defining a variable, another variable called input set input, which will be equal to useDate hook. And initially it will have the empty string, and let's define the value of this input to be input, and whenever it's gonna change we will pass an event with an arrow function, and it will set input to the current value of our input box. So e.target.value. Okay, so one last thing for the input we have to define is on key up. So for on key up event we will be passing an event, and in that arrow function we will be checking if the clicked key is entered or not. So e.key equal enter. If it is, then we will submit the form. So I will be commenting this for now. We'll make the function later. Okay, looks fine. And for this image we have to bring the search icon here. So for that I will be importing it here. Okay, let's place this. Yeah, looks fine. Now let's just check. So it will look something like this. Here we are seeing that this is too big, so let's make it small. And in this image we will also give it a styling of some width to be 1.5 rem and height to be also 1.5 rem, and now it will look fine. Yeah, it's looking fine. Okay, so the next thing is we have to define our background layout. So what should we do with this background layout so that it will form an image in the background of whole application according to the weather? So let's see this. Okay, so here we are in the background layout. So before defining our background layout logic, we have to create a context so that our component can make use of it. So we have to define a context in which the API is called and the data is populated. So we are making it as a single source of truth. So first of all, in the src folder, I will be creating a new folder called context. And in the context, I will be creating a new file called index.jsx. And inside, we will create the logic of our application. Just create our context. So for the context, I'll be importing a useContext hook, which is already defined in React. Create context together with useDate and useEffect. So these are the only things that we need in the index.jsx inside the context folder. And we also want to install the Axios library for API calling. So let me install that. So for that, we will be stopping our application from running. Okay, so I will install the Axios library. So just hit enter after this command, and it will install the Axios library in our project, not API, to be more precise. Okay, it is installed. Let's run our app again. Okay, so I will be importing the Axios. Okay, so the next thing is we will define a context. So I will name it state context. And which will be equal to create context function call, or maybe an instance of the context, and I will be export const state context provider, which is an arrow function, and it will be taking the props as children, and inside of it we will be defining some hooks called such as weather or current weather. Set weather is equal to useState hook, and it will be initially an empty object. And so the next thing is values and set values. I think I spelled wrong. useDate, and it will be an empty array initially. And for the place or the current place, I will set it to useDate and an empty string, or maybe any name of the place, like where I live, just like I live in Jaipur. And just after that, const there's a location. So this is just for the purpose of taking the name, not another purpose. So this is extra defined field, which is equal to useDate, and it will be an empty string initially. And just after the useDates, we will define the fetch function, which will be fetching data from our API or the weather forecast. Const fetch weather, which will be equal to an arrow function, and inside of the arrow function it will be async. So inside of the arrow function we will define options, which will be an object containing method, and method will be get, and URL will be, so you can copy it from the Rapid API. I am just copying that thing. So for the purpose of understanding it better, I am doing it step by step. Okay, so the URL will be https visual crossing weather .p.rapidapi.com/forecast. Okay, so we have defined our URL, and just after the URL we will be defining the params. And for the params we will be defining the aggregate hours, and aggregates hour will be 24 for this, and location will be place, which we have set here to initiate chapter. And just after that we will have content type to be of JSON. So these params are totally related to our API, not in this options. And unit group will be metric. And the last things, short column names. Which will be initially 10. Not 10, 0. Okay. We will not need any other columns here. So there's a typo here. It is not capital letter for the C. And just after the params, we will define the headers. Headers will be headers. And for headers, we will define X rapid API key, which will be equal to actually I will define the API key inside of .env file, and for the Weat I will show the whole process how to define the environment variables in the Weat project. And similarly there's another field called X rapid API, okay, it's not a dash, API host. So what will be our host? So our host will be visual crossing weather.p.rapidapi.com. Yeah. And for this API key, I will be creating a .env file throughout our project scope. So let's just create it, .env. Make sure that this .env file is not inside of the src folder, instead of in the whole project root. So for the API key, I will define the Weat. So this is the syntax for defining environment variable in the Weat. So it should be having prefix of Weat API key. So the reason I'm not showing you my API key is it can be theft or it can be stolen. So for the security purposes, you have to place your API key here, which you can get from the Rapid API website, which the API is defined, and you can sign up or subscribe for that service and place that API key here. And for now, we will go back to the index.jsx, and I have defined my API key successfully. And for that, to use that particular API key or that environment variable, I will okay, just caps lock is on, import dot meta dot env dot, let's name our variable, which was Weat API key. Okay, so it will work. And just after the headers, What else is remaining? I think we are done for now. The only thing remaining is to define our methods. And for that, we will have a try and catch block. So let's just define a try and catch block. Inside the try block, and there's a catch block which will have either E, and we will console dot error or E basically, or if the API is not fetched according to the place. So this is a specific case. If the API throws error, so we are not expecting any other error other than the string of location or the string of place which we are feeding to our API, like here. So that if the string is not legit, then it will throw the error. So that's why we will alert the user that this place does not exist. So yes, and now it's time for the main logic, which will be defining const response, which is equal to await axios.request, and it will have options, and just next to that console.log response.data. So it is, we are console logging our response which we are getting from the API, and just after that const this data equal object dot values, and which will be response dot data, and then it will be from the location. So it is the API specific thing. You don't have to worry about that. And for this, it will be 0. And just next to that, we will set location to this data dot address. And next is set values, which will be this data dot values, and we will set weather, which will be this data dot values, and will be initial value, which is for the current weather. So this is defined properly, and let's just make the use effect hook for that, calling this API function. And the use effect hook here, inside the use effect hook, I will have an arrow function, and together with the arrow function, a dependency array in which we will have the place as dependency. So whenever the place is changed or the first time the component is rendered, we will call fetch function, fetch weather. Okay, so here it is. So initially we will comment it out so that API limit is not exploited. And for the next step, we'll define another use effect hook, which will be another arrow function. It is basically for the checking purpose if the values we are getting or not. So we'll pass the values in the dependency array, and whenever the values are changed, then console.log, we will console.log values. Okay, so values is nothing but the forecast array here. Okay, so everything is done for now, and we will just return this state context dot provider, and we will wrap it in a component form, and similarly it will be like this. Okay, so we will be returning the state context.provider, and inside of it we will define our children. So we can wrap anything, any component inside the state context.provider so that the children can access these values, which we are going to define here, values, or simply value. And inside of the value I will define another object, and inside that object the things I want to provide throughout the context to the children is weather set place function, and values and location. Yeah, that's it. These are the only things which we're gonna provide throughout our context. So the one final thing remaining is this export const use date context, which will be equal to an arrow function which will return use context, and it will have the state context defined in it. Okay, so our index.js inside of the context folder is properly defined. Okay, so it is saying that the location is not making any use. So doesn't we forget location? Okay, so let's just control click on it. Okay, this location is another location, so we have to name it differently, right? So we can name it this location. Okay, and we can pass here instead of location this location. So if we control click on that, yeah, it is done properly. And for now we just have to check our API is running or not. So for that we just uncomment this thing. Okay, so one thing I want to make you aware of that is my autosave mode is on, so I don't have to hit Control S every time to save my code. It is saved automatically. So that's why you can also follow this thing to get a better hang of it. So inside of this background layout, I'll be using this hook called I will be calling weather, which is equal to useDate context, which we have defined, and just save it, not save it because it is saved automatically, and just console.log weather, to see if it is working or not. So let's just go to our application, and I will open the DevTools in the console. Okay, so one thing I want to mention that we just forgot to uncomment this thing. Okay, it is uncommented. Okay, so I have uncommented the fetch weather function in the useDate. So to check if the API is working or not, I will just go to the App.jsx, and in here I will be defining the weather, which is equal to useDate context. Okay, so before using the context in any scenario, we have to wrap our whole application in the provider. So to do that, we will go to the main.jsx, and here we will be importing state context provider. Yes. Okay, instead of React strict mode, you can replace the state context provider here. So our application is now in the context of our API. So just go to the App.jsx. We can define the weather, which is equal to useDate context, and we can just console.log the weather. To check if it is running or not, we just go to our application and just check if it is running or not. I will open the tab tools. Okay, so we are getting an object. Yeah, it is running successfully. And don't forget to define your API key in the .env folder. Okay, so we can proceed. So I will just comment these out and go to our backgroundlayout.jsx, and inside of it we will define the logic for our application, not application but for the background images. So first of all, let me define the weather, which we are getting from useDate context, and from the useDate context we will define next to be image, or the current image, that image, which will be equal to useDate, and inside of it will be initially set to clear. So what is this clear here? That is not defined. So let me import all the images inside of the BackgroundLayout.jsx. So I have imported all the things, all the images in here like this, and we are already using the clear in it. And let's just define the logic for whether it should show a particular image related to the weather. So for that we will be defining use effect hook, and inside of the use effect there will be an arrow function, and with the empty dependency array, not empty, with the weather. So whenever the weather is changing, it will change the image. So first of all we will see if we have the weather dot conditions. So it is a variable defined with the API. So if we have the weather dot conditions, so we will create a variable called let icon string, or maybe image string, which is equal to weather dot conditions. Okay, so if image string dot to lowercase dot includes clear, then we will be setting, if it is including clear, then we will be setting image to clear. Okay, and just like that we will do for the rain, snow, fog, wind, and thunder, storm, everything. Okay, so now similarly we have to define for the cloudy one, else if, and I will copy the same here, this thing, and I will replace it with this thing, and if it contains cloud, not cloud, it's cloud, then it will set image to cloudy. Okay, and similarly we're gonna copy this whole thing again and again, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So not every time for cloud, we will also have to define for we have defined for clear and cloud, and this time for rain. And also we have to do this if image string dot to lowercase dot includes shower, then we also want to define it to the rain or rainy, maybe. Rain is defined, and wind is defined. For the wind, I think so there is nothing for wind, right? So we have to change that. So for snow, snow, and for the fog, we have to change it to fog, and for the storm, we have to change it to the storm or thunder. Then we will have to change it to stormy. So we also have to cover the case for storm. Image string dot to lowercase dot includes storm. Okay, fine. So the storm is covered, fog is covered, snow is covered, rain is covered, clear and cloudy, all things are covered, I think. So we don't need that thing. Okay, so here we are good. And instead of returning the div, I will be creating the image, and in here I will replace it by image, and we will give the alternative text to weather image, and also we will give it some class or some styling. And for the styling, we will have hScreen width to be full and its position will be fixed so that it will cover all of the screen. Left will be 0, top will be also be 0, and its index will be minus of z index negative of 10. Fine, I think. So let's just check if it is working or not. So let's go to the App.jsx, and inside, just below the nav, we will define our background layout. Okay, we also have to import it. So we have imported that, but not from this, but from the instead from the battle file. Okay, so let's just see. Okay, fine, it is working. That's it, I wanted. Okay, so I just noticed that our navbar is not visible right here, and instead only the image is visible here. So for that, we will check whether we are doing something wrong or not. So it will be in the case of background layout, and so we will check if it is okay or not. Okay, so we forgot to define the z index numerical value here, so we will pass 10 in it and we will save, and let's just check now. Okay, it's working fine. Okay, fine. And now let's just get to App.jsx, and just below the background we will define our main div or the main container, which will have the class of width of full. It will be flex container, and it will have the flex wrap property, which will just start from the new line whenever the flex container is overflowed. It will have the gap, not GPA, gap of 8, which is equivalent to 2 pixels, padding y of 4, and padding in x direction with 10%, and together with items center and justify center. Okay, so this is the main container in which we will be defining our weather card and the mini card. So the weather card be like here and the mini card will be like here. So let's just do this. Okay, so it's time to define our weather card. So we will go to the weather card. So here it is. There's only div containing the name weather card. Okay, so for the weather card, we will be having the props. So let me define the props here. So first thing will be temperature. I hope it's spelled correct. T-E-M-P-E. Okay, T-E-P. T-E-M-P-E-R-A-T-U-R-E. Okay. Okay, then wind speed. And just after that, humidity. and after that place heat index and its icon string and conditions. So that's it for now. And inside of the function, we will be defining a useDate hook, which will set the icon or the current icon according to the weather. Set icon, which will be of useDate and which will initially be sun. So we don't have defined the icons yet. So I will define the date or maybe time, which we are getting from the useDate hook. And let's just import the useDate hook also, which is inside the utils folder in our project here, and import useDate from, it will be inside the utils slash useDate. Let's just check if it is pointing towards the correct thing or not. Yeah, it's pointing toward the correct thing and we are getting the time. And now let's just import these icons. Okay, so we will go on the top and I will import sun from assets icons sun.png, and similarly we will copy all the other icons from the assets folder. And now it's time to define the conditions or the logic for our icon to appear according to the weather. Inside the use effect, I will be defining the arrow function, which will take a dependency array, and this dependency array will take the icon string. Okay, so inside of that, if we have icon string, then only we want to assign the icon. So if icon string dot to lowercase dot includes like cloud, then set icon equal to cloud. Okay, and else if icon string dot to lowercase dot includes if it is in rain, 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 then set icon to rain. And similarly, I'll be copying this multiple times. And we have defined for the rain and the clouds. So now it will be for the clear. And if it's clear, so let me check that. If it is clear, then it will be clear. So there is nothing like clear in our icon, so it is sun. And if it includes a storm or thunder, then it will be for the thunder or storm. And if it is fog, then it will be fog. And if it is snow, then it is snow. Whether we are missing something, let's see. Oh, we are missing the wind. So let me copy this one more time. Okay, so instead of the snow, we will define it to be wind. Similar here, wind. I don't know why it is giving me the error dot to lowercase. Till lowercase is missing in props validation. Okay, it is some ESLint configuration problem, so I will disable it for now. Okay, so we have defined the logic, and let's just jump into the JSX. And in the JSX, we will defining a div with some styling, width of 22 rem, height of width of 22 rem, but minimum of width, min width of 22 rem also, so that this width is fixed. Height will be of 30 rems, and it will be a class card. So let me just define the class card in the index.css just after finishing this class. P4, padding of the 4 inside this card. So let's just define the class card class inside our index.css. So first of all, we have to import the index.css in here. So for index.css, I will just type import /index.css. Okay, so just let's go to the index.css, and in here we will be defining our class card. And inside it we will define a background, and the background will be of RGBA. Actually, I just copied this from glass card generator website, or you can find any of the glass card generating website and you can go there and copy the whole CSS. But to make it more educational, I am just typing it hardly. So it will be 225, and the opacity will be 0.18, and box shadow will be 8 pixels, 32 pixels, and 0, and we'll have the color of RGBA, and inside the braces we will have 31, 38, 135, and 0.37 of opacity. And just below that we will define backdrop filter property. Backdrop filter property to be blur. And how much we want to blur? We want to blur it about 8 pixels. And just below that, for the other browsers, WebKit backdrop filter, and that is also blur, which is about 8 pixels. So this is just for the another browsers which don't support the backdrop filter property. And for the border radius, it will be of something like 10 pixels, and it will have the border of 1 pixel solid, and this color RGBA. Inside this 225, 0.18, same as this one, background color. Okay, so we have defined our glass card property here. Let's get back to the weather card, where we have defined the class card property, and inside of this div we're gonna have another div. So let's define it. It will be a div another, and it will have the styling to be flex. It will have width of full, and we will justify the items or content to the center. And just after that, items to center. And just after that, there will be a gap of 4, margin top of 12, and margin bottom of 4. Yeah, that's it for our this div. And inside of that, we will be defining an image tag, which will be containing the icon image. So we'll just type the icon. I will alternative text, we will give it to weather icon. Yeah, looks fine. Okay, we don't have to give the additional property for this image. So let's just define a p tag, and inside that I will define some class name. So we font bold text 5 pixel, flex justify center, items to be center. Okay, so this is a typo. Items to center. Okay, so inside of that we will give it the temperature property, and just after that we will define the degree sign and C. And because we are getting the metric format of metric unit system, so the temperature will be in the C, Celsius.
Okay, and just after that we're gonna make another div, and inside of this div I will giving some styling, and the styling will be font bold, text center, and text to be extra large. And inside of this particular div we're gonna give it some place. Okay, so the place which we are getting from the props will reside here, and just after that we will make another div, and just after that another div, and I will giving it some styling to be width of full. It will be a flex container and justify between, and items to be centered. Okay, and additionally we want to give it some margin top of 4. Yeah, looks fine. And for the next thing we're gonna define a p tag or the paragraph tag and inside of which we will have a new date instance which we will be converting it to date string. Okay, yeah, this is it. So let's give it some styling, and for the class name it will be flex1 covering the whole part, text center, and padding of 2. And just like that we will also give the similar thing. So let's copy this, and inside of here we don't want the date, so let's remove it. Instead of the date we want time, which we are getting from props, or maybe useDate here. Okay, so let's define good flex, it will be flex1, right? Okay, and for the next thing we are going to define another div, and let's give it some styling, and it will be width full, it will be flex container, justify between, items center, margin top to be 4. And from now on I'll be speaking those in short terms like justify between, item center, because till now you have adopted this ability to grasp the tailwind CSS, so it's on you. Gap will be 4, not 2, 4. Okay, and inside of that div we will have another p tag which will give some styling called flex1, text center, padding of 2, font to be bold, background to be blue, and blue of 600, maybe, not maybe, yeah. There will be a shadow of this p tag, and its border radius to be rounded, and rounded in large size. And inside of the p tag we're going to define okay, wind speed, so it will be in the capital letters. And inside of this p tag another p tag we will be defining, and inside of this we will have wind speed, which we are getting from the props. And let's give it some styling also, and for this p tag there will be only one styling called font normal. Okay, so that's it for this p tag. And the next thing is another p tag, and for this let's give it some styling, and it will be flex1, text center, padding of 2, and font to be bold, and similarly rounded LG, and background of green of about 600. Yes, that is. And for this p tag we will be defining the humidity, and just like the upper one there is another p tag inside of it, and similarly the class name will be font normal, and inside of this p tag we will be defining humidity, which we are getting from props. Okay, just after this div there is another div, and it will have the class name of width of full, padding of 3, margin top of 4. It will be flex container, justify between item center. Okay, and just after that, there's another p tag, and for this p tag, let's give it some styling, and it will be font semi-bold, and text to be large. And inside of the p tag, I'll be defining heat index. That is just a hard-coded string, but the actual heat index we'll be getting in the another p tag of the same name. So just copy it. Okay. So we have just copied, but inside of here we only want font to be normal. So I'm removing that font semi-bold. And inside of this p tag, we will be defining dynamic code block here. And inside of that dynamic code block, we will be defining if there is a heat index, then just written heat index. Otherwise, just written the string NA, which means not available, because for some of the cases our heat index will not be available. So that's why we're gonna make it like this. And just after that, div, we're gonna define our horizontal rule. Okay, let me make this good looking, because I know there is no need for some extra lines. Yeah, looking fine. Okay, and inside of this horizontal rule, we will giving some little styling called bg slate 600. That's it for the horizontal rule. And just after that, we're gonna define another div. And inside of this div, we will give it some styling to be with full padding of 4, and it will be flags justify between, no, justify center, yeah, item center, text to be 3XL, and font to be semi-bold. Okay, that's it. And inside of it, inside of this div, we'll be defining our conditions. So maybe rainy, maybe storm, thunder, cloudy, sunshine. All the condition string will be shown here. So let's place it, conditions. So this is which we are getting from the props. Okay, so now let's just go to the another mini card. Okay, now let's just go to the mini card because our value card is finished. Okay, so inside of here our mini card resides, and let's define our mini card component. So inside of the props, what we are getting, so we will be getting the time and the temperature, which I will be defining it as temp, and icon string. Yeah, that's it. These are the only things which we're gonna require in our mini card. And let me define a state here for the icon, and which I will set it to useDate. And in the useDate, I'll define initially nothing. So let's define another hook, useDate. And inside the useDate hook, it will have the dependency array which will contain the icon string. Yeah, the use effect hook, okay, not useDate. So inside of the use effect hook, the logic for the icon or the image is gonna be same as the weather card. So in the weather card, we have defined if the icon string is for the cloud, then the cloud icon is shown. If it's for rain, the rain icon is shown. Same as this, we have to copy this whole thing, and we have to paste it here. Just copy paste, nothing more. Yes. So we also have to import those things, right? And to import those things, let's copy them from here, and just import them here. Okay, now I think there is only problem with this icon string dot to lowercase. I know what it is. Okay, so yeah, we are done with it. And now let's just define our component. Inside of this, we'll be having some styling. It will be a glass card, and its width will be 10 rem, and its height will be 10 rem, and its padding will be 4. It will be flex container and flex in column direction. Extra space. And inside of this div, we will be passing a p tag. And for this p tag, I will give it some class name, and the class name will be text center. And inside of that p tag, let's define a dynamic code block. And inside of the dynamic code block, there will be new date instance. And for the date, I will be passing it the time, which we are getting from the props. And we will connect to local date string, or local time string, sorry. And inside of this, we will pass the en, or English language, as a primary language for this. And second argument is object, which is weekday. and weekday will be in the format of long. Yes, and that's not it. And we're gonna just split the result with the spaces, and just between the splitted results, we're gonna get the first result. Okay, so here it is. And just after that, we will define a horizontal rule, HR. Yes, and just after that, we will define another div. And inside of this div, we will gonna give it some styling to be width full, and it will be a flex container, and it will be justify center, items center, and flex 1, not 2, 1. Okay. And inside of this div, let me scroll a little bit. There will be an image tag, and for this image tag, it will be icon. Okay. And so the alternative text for this is weather icon, or I think that we have defined somewhere in the project, so just keep it weather. Okay. And for some, let's give some styling to this image. So for this image, there will be width of 4 rem and height of 4 rem. Yeah, that's it. And just outside of that div, we will define another p tag, which will have the class name of text center font bold, and inside of that dynamic code block, which will contain temperature, which we are getting from the props. So let's also define the degree, which is NDEG for degree in the HTML, and which will be in the Celsius. So that's it for our MiniCard. So let me check why it is giving this error. So we are getting the icon string here. The icon string is defined here. So what is this? Why this is causing problem? Okay, so the problem I discovered was with the ESLint linter. So I'm not getting used with those linters like prettier and ESLint. So I just disabled it at the top of my file. Okay, so now we are finished making our components. And the only thing remaining is to define these components in our main container in the App.jsx. So let's go to the App.jsx, and inside here's the main container in which we can define those things. Okay, so first of all, we have to define the weather card. Weather card here. Yes, let's make it short. Okay, so it is not imported yet. So for that, I will be importing. Okay, so from here, weather card, and just like that, MiniCard. Okay, so everything is imported, and inside of this weather card, we're gonna give props to it, or we're gonna pass the props. Place will be location. Okay, so let's cross check this location. Okay, so this is not the location that we want. Instead, so let's see which location are we giving it to. Okay, so let's just check this if this is the intended location or not. Okay, so this is not the location. Instead, it is giving the Windows object location. So we don't want it. Okay, so I just forgot to uncomment this thing, which we are getting the weather and this location from our useDate context. So instead of location, I will define here this location. And for the wind speed, there will be weather.windspeed. And for the humidity, it will be weather.humidity. And just like temperature, it will be weather.temp, not double dots. And for heat index, it will be weather.heat index. It will be short, not in the camel case. And for the icon string, it will be weather.conditions. Okay, and one final thing for the conditions. Similarly, it will be weather.conditions. So I just defined the weather.conditions for both the icon string and conditions. You can ask why I defined those two things separately. So you can see that the separation of concerns, so that we will not have to confuse or take any more time on figuring out these things. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna import from our context is values. Okay, so let's just check what we have defined the values in our context. So in the context folder, index.jsx, let's just see there's a weather, set place, values, and location. And so the weather which we are exporting here is something set to set weather value 0. Okay, so it was just cross-checking if the things are working well or not. So just below the weather card, we will define another div which will have some styling. So let's define this styling. Will be flex, justify will be center, and there will be gap of 8 between the items in this box. this will be flex wrap, and width will be of 60%. Okay, inside of this, we will define dynamic code block, inside of which we will give the values dot map, and it will be the current element, and this current element will be MiniCard. And this MiniCard will take the props to be key, in which the key will be current dot date time, and the time it will be the same, current dot date time, and for our temperature, temp, current dot temp, and for our icon string, it will be current dot conditions. Yes, that's it. And we will check if the value array is existing or not, so that there will be no error prone code. And if the values are exist, so we have to slice it. Okay, so slice it. Slice meaning basically copying the array from particular index to the particular index. So we'll be starting from the index 1 up to the index 6. So the 7 is excluded here. So yeah, that's it for our code. And now let's just check our application. Okay, so we are getting this thing. So there are a couple of things missing here, like wind speed and our whole weather forecast. So, and also the place name. So let's just check what are we doing wrong. Okay, so the problems I found here were these problems. First of all, this MiniCard is not written here. So let's just return. So in the return statement, we're gonna just return this MiniCard. Okay, now let's just check. Okay, so it is appearing like this. And it is fine, I think, for now. And for another thing, we are getting this location from our context. So for this location, but when we check this location, it is empty and it is making no use for anything. So for that, we will just also export the place. So we have exported the place and just import it here. And instead of this location, we will just type place. Okay. And for the wind speed, it was not wind speed here. Instead, we are getting WSPT from our API. And for now, let's just check. Okay, so we are getting the wind speed and the heat index, and which is partially cloudy, and still the name of this is not visible. Okay, we just forgot to save. And okay, so now it's rendering completely with the name. So as you can see here, the layout is not consistent here. So let's just check it. So what is causing that inconsistency is that typo in our main.class name. So instead of flags, we have defined it falx, which is a typo, and sometimes it's really a pain in the head to search for a typo. So let's just see. Okay, now the layout is fine. Okay, so one more thing we want to fix, that is inside our context index.js, this location was empty initially. So we are not exporting that place again. Instead, we will be setting this location in our fetch application, fetch API. So set location, this data.address. Okay, so not this data.address. For now, our layout is working fine. Our application is working fine. The only thing remaining is this search functionality. So let's just implement it. Okay, for the search functionality, we have already defined the input here. And so we also have to define the placeholder here, like placeholder, and it will be search city. Okay, and for whenever we are submitting this input, so when on enter, so it will call some kind of function called submit city. So we also have to define the submit city function up here, and for that we'll be defining an arrow function submit city to be, and inside of that, so it will set place. So we are not importing the set place from here, so just import it set place. So let's just set place, and we will set it to current input. And just after that, we will gonna set input to empty, so that whenever we hit enter, the input is automatically empty. And for that, we're using here, and let's just for checking tag New York. Okay, so weather for New York is displayed here. Fantastic. This is awesome. Okay, as you can see here. Okay, so now it's time to test our search functionality. And so I want to search it New York. Okay, so the weather data for the New York is populated here, and it is working fine. Fantastic. So the one thing that have issues here is this string here. It is not displaying the proper name of the place which we searched here. So just look for it. Okay,
So instead of the place, we are getting it here. We have to get this location in the place of this place. So this location. So now let's check. So it is not displaying any name of the place here. So it may be a bug or a typo. So let's just check. So in the context, we can check this. This is exported good. Okay, so the typo here is, as you can see, the location. Instead of LOCA, it is LOAC. So we have to fix throughout our context. So let's see, LOAC instead of LOAC, LOCA. Okay. And now let's just see if it's working or not. Fine, it's working. So let's search for the New Delhi. So for the New Delhi, the weather is displayed here. And let's just search for Cairo, Egypt. And as we can see, it is sunny there. And overall, it is looking good. So the one thing that we are missing here is the units for the humidity and the wind speed. So let's just define them. So in the weather card for the humidity and wind speed. So where we define, so here's the wind speed. It will be km/h with some little space. And for the humidity, it will be grams per meter cube inverse. And for the cube inverse, there's a special syntax for 179. And yeah, we are done. Now let's just check. Okay, so it is displaying fine. So that's it for our application. And as you can see, it is a very beautiful application. It will adapt to the weather and whether what is the weather. So let's just check for one more city, Chennai. So there is a rainy weather in the Chennai, and here, as you can see, some of the icons is missing. So whenever the conditions from our API do not have any related keyword to match our icons, then it will set it to its alternative string for that image. So we also have to handle that. And instead of just showing the weather, we have to show that it is not available. So for that, we will go to our minicard, and inside of that minicard, instead of this in this image tag, instead of the weather only, we can show not forecast, not available, LABL. Okay, and let's just check. Okay, so it is displaying correctly. Fine. So that's it for our weather application. I hope you understood all the code base. And if you have any doubts, you can post them in the comments so I can help you back. And for more such content, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit like button if you liked this content.